Bryan Testify in regards to his alibi. He is literally the only one that can discuss or try to prove what he was doing. Princess. Nobody else, unless, what are the odds that somebody would know what he was doing, where he was stargazing, and of course, whether or not the weather, even that day, and it wasn't actually, and there's a lot of proof out there showing what the weather was that day, that night, that middle of the night on November 13th. It was cloudy. You wouldn't have seen the stars really that night. Anyways, so good luck with that, Bryan. You guys, I'm not so much on the teeter-totter anymore. Based on these document drops, and the closer we get to trial, I've let Kohbergers and whatnot kind of like keep me with an open mind. And I've always actually been like that anyways. But the Kohbergers recently, because we've had a lot, like the 911 call, even after the 911 call, should have been enough for me to, well, that wouldn't have proven Bryan did it though. So, that's just a 911 call. But that's based on Dylan and Bethany and what Dylan saw and everything. That's a whole other thing. But if Bryan can prove that he was stargazing that night, if he could testify, Bryan testifying would be ideal. I would love to hear what he has to say. I would love to hear him testify on what he was doing, and especially those 23 times leading up to the crimes that he was there within 100-meter radius, you guys. 100-meter radius is not that big. And don't tell me that he was out shopping, he was out doing whatever at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 4:20 a.m. when the car took off. Please don't tell me that he was out, and all those 23 times that he was actually just out shopping. Yeah, Main Street's not too far, but the thing is that unless, he was out at Corner Club or any clubs like that, or wherever he could have been, Well, we would have to check, because there's not much shopping, I believe, within that 100-meter radius. There's not. It's Sigma Chi, and it's like the little frat houses, and 500 Queen, and Linda Lane, Blake, that in Walenta up in there. It just makes no sense that it can't be him, that it's not him now, So, and not just that, there's the documents that are out right now, I cannot wait for trial. And I know a lot of people, and like I said, May 14th is when the deadline is for Anne and the defense to come up with an alternate perpetrator. If that can't be done by May 14th, there is no evidence, and there won't be, even at trial, that there could be an alternate perpetrator. It's not going to come out at trial. It needs to come out by May 14th. So, like I said in one of my previous videos, if we don't hear anything by May 14th of an alternate perpetrator, everybody thinking that there's multiples need to lay off of it. I know for a little while, I was thinking that, especially with the blood on the handrail and the glove outside, that is still a question. But obviously it's not important enough, and it's not relevant. It might not just be the important part, it's more like the relevance. It might not even be relevant to this fucking case. So, I don't know. The more I see, the more I go towards what I feel in my gut is the right way to go. And in this case right now, based on these new documents and Judge Hitler's judgments and rulings, I strongly feel that my first initial thought when this happened, and when we found out that it was Bryan Kohberger that did this, my gut and looking at his eyes and everything, I felt deep in my heart that it was that guy. It was that guy. And this is not even in regard to autism or, and it's comical to me that the defense is the ones that brought up, oh, you can't use the words psychopath, sociopath, the term red rum, you can't use the ASD points and whatnot. The prosecution was never going to use that. They were never going to use that to kind of describe Bryan and why he could have done this and whatnot. They were never. It was the defense that brought it up to plant a seed, to plant everybody thinking, oh, no, he could not have done this because of the ASD, because of the motor skills and whatnot. BS. The prosecution was not even going to use it. So why would they even bring it up on the table? You know, that's whatever. We're not going to blame it on that, you know. We're going to blame it, if anything, because the man is capable. He knew what he was doing. He did a freaking essay, a freaking well-documented essay for DeSales in his criminology course about contamination and cross-contamination and all of that. And he did really well on that. And there might not be a connection to any of the victims with him, but maybe it's just a house that he chose, a random house. And that makes it scary, because if he just thought, oh, I'm just going to choose that house and then I'm going to scope out a house. Because at the beginning, if you remember, Chief Fry said, we don't know if it was a house that was targeted or the kids at first. So if he did this, and if he, and also because of the fact that he was into criminology and he knew everything, and his survey questions and all of this, he knew what he was doing. He knew when he was in there and coming out of there how not to have DNA on him. Like, he knew all of this. He was smart in that aspect, but dumb that his sheath fell. If it wasn't for the sheath falling with his touch DNA that they don't want to use either at court, if that wasn't on there, he might have perfected this crime. He might have walked away, continued with his life, and everything would have been great. And we never would have known who did this. But luckily, the angels were on the victim sides. And they made sure there was a fuck up somewhere.